Hey, I'm making a fantasy text-based RPG inspired by the classics from the 80s, where you play as a detective who solves magical crimes. It takes place in this world called Ecopia that is just teeming with magic. For example, the clouds will change color and tell a story of the world below. So death will bring black clouds and evil doing will bring red clouds. Another example is that the world is self-healing at a rapid pace. So like an earthquake will happen, but the land will quickly recover. Plus there's talking animals and, all sorts of fantastical things. In the game, you wake up with no memory of your past or who you are today. You wake up and find a note that tells you that you're an agent of Redcloud Investigations, and your whole goal is to kind of assimilate, but also figure out what happened to your memory and who you are, while also going on all these quests and meeting all these new people. So I was inspired to start doing devlogs for this game because I've seen so many indie developers do it on YouTube and they have a lot of success with it. They've said how much it helped, them keep up steam with completing their games, helping them motivate themselves to work on it more. And there are just so many unique games out there that I would love to throw mine onto the internet as well and see what sticks and see what people feel about it. I didn't mention this in my last devlog, but you might be wondering what engine I'm using. And it might seem like overkill, but I'm using Unreal Engine 5, mostly because I don't know how to code. I've messed around in Unity a little bit, and it's great, but I love the visual scripting that Blueprints provides, and I don't see myself changing that anytime soon, even though I know it's quite a beast of an engine to do not only a 2D game, but a text-based game. Right? But it seems to be working out for me, and I have minimal issues so far. So this week for Redcloud, I'm trying to work on a combat system for the game. Initially, I tried to do kind of a system based on initiative, like in Dungeons & Dragons or Baldur's Gate, and, AI decision making, but that didn't really work with the way the game is set up. You see, it's mostly put together by this spreadsheet that I have in Google Sheets that I export as a CSV file. And I can't remember what tutorial I got it from, but it was initially like a dialogue system tutorial where you have the choice text in this column and then the description in this column. And then on the right, it will have the options that you can select pop up and it'll jump from there. It started out really simple, but I was able to add things like events based on the row. So based on the page number, you can trigger different events like a dice roll, or for the combat system, I'll do like combat move results where I'll put in certain text, certain unique text. And then when I put that in Unreal, as it's going to fill out the page, it'll read the text and replace it with text based on whether or not the combat move was successful or not. And then from there, I can change which choices are available and only provide the one that is either successful or not successful based on the result of the roll. So I think this combat, it's a little more scripted. It's like a semi-scripted way of doing combat, but I think it'll lend itself more to interesting storytelling. There's still, random rolls for the player and party members and the enemies, but I think I'll be able to include changes based on what items the players picked up. If they have certain weapons, either it'll give them buffs or they'll have new combat options. Different items will bring new actions or, buffs to dice rolls. Plus one of the goals for the player would be to learn magic and spells throughout the game because that's a big part of it. And I think that just lends itself to a lot more interesting storytelling in that way. Like, for example, in the first combat encounter, the player doesn't know any magic, but they're supposed to because the people that they've been working with have known them for a long time, but the player doesn't remember any of it. And the party's like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you cast magic? And so it'll kind of incentivize the player to maybe pick up a scroll along the way or find a spell book. So I'm still fleshing out the first scripted combat experience. There's a side quest I need to do that kind of acts like a tutorial for combat, even though it's not super necessary now because it'll just play like the rest of the game, which you'll be familiar with going into it. Unlike text-based adventures of the 70s and 80s, it's not text prompts. mainly because I don't know how to do any of that. And I think of it more like a Baldur's Gate 3 experience or Skyrim, where you have set choices, but they're varied, and it leads to different consequences based on those actions. So it's less of scrimmaging around to figure out which direction to go in a cave, and more almost like a visual novel. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to my friend Gabby. She's doing some of the art for the game. She did this pixel art of one of the main NPCs that you encounter, and I think she's going to do some more soon. I'll link down to her website in the description below if you want to check out more of her work. She's pretty talented. Although, if I do plan to fully flesh out this game, I don't know how much art we'll need for all of that, so I have some alternative ideas for UI that doesn't require any pixel art. There wouldn't be any visuals, it would just be text. So we'll have to see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any ideas or any comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. I'll read all the comments, and I will see you in the next one.